I'm Melvin Middleton, and this is Counter the Culture. Well, Merry Christmas. This is our Christmas show, and it's actually early Christmas morning. And me and my daughters we've opened our gifts to each other and had a really good time and enjoyed it, and saw how much thought that they put into what they were giving each other and to me and everything. And that was really neat. I was thinking and talking to my cousin Ken today about our Christmases in the past and the Christmases as kids and us growing up and everything. Have some funny stories to tell you about that. But I also am going to cover, I told you last week that we were going to cover the swaddling clothes that Jesus was wrapped in whenever he was born. And I know that you've heard about that. The scripture reference, if you need it, and a lot of people might, is Luke chapter 2 is the story that I like to read. And in all the Gospels, it talks about that. That's Matthew and Mark, Luke and John. It talks about Jesus being born. Matthew, Mark, and Luke specifically. But in Luke chapter 2, it starts talking about, that in this particular year that a census was sent out and people had to come to their hometown to be for the census to happen and for them to pay taxes. So that's how Joseph and Mary ended up in Bethlehem where Jesus was born. Well, they ended up, went to an inn and there was no room for them. And Mary was pregnant out to there and ready to give birth to Jesus. And so they needed a place to stay. So the innkeeper let them stay basically in his barn, which was probably, I don't know for sure, but was probably a cave that was carved back into the side of a mountain. And they would be back in there, and Jesus was laid in a manger after he was born. And something really interesting, and this is a kind of a cool thing that I learned years ago, and I'm not sure exactly how accurate that it is, but it's a really cool thought. And so hang on with me and put your finger in that place in your mind where we're talking about swaddling clothes, and I'm going to come back to that. The first thing I'm going to talk about is memories. And all of us have Christmas memories. All of us have memories of Christmas past. And if you've lived any years at all, you've had great Christmases and some very hard Christmases. For our family this year, this is a unique time, a very hard Christmas. My dad just passed away a few months ago, so this is our first Christmas without him. He would have been 90 years old just a week and a half ago. And so he lived a nice long life, and God brought him right along. Him and my mom were married for about 64 years before he passed away. And so this is a new time for us. Their anniversary was in November. And so this has been a strange year for us. However, it's been a wonderful year at the same time. And I know that sounds kind of weird with the whole COVID thing and all that going on. But God has been good, and God has sustained us all. If you're watching me right now, God has taken care of you and brought you this far. And guess what? God's not done with you yet. And hope is still there. Remember last week we talked about hope. And hope is a big theme in my life. That earnest expectation of some good thing and the belief that that good thing is attainable. I believe that for you, joy is attainable this year, this Christmas year. Before the new year comes around or anything else, everybody's looking for 2021 to be the answer. I'm not, man. Jesus is the answer right now to everything we need right now. And isn't it funny? A lot of times we get him stuck in that manger as the baby Jesus. Guess what? He's not that little baby Jesus helpless and needing his mama to take care of him anymore. He's the victorious king, and someday he's coming back to get us. Man, what a testimony. What a great thing to think about. But I was thinking today and talking to my cousin about some of the memories I have of Christmas past. And I remember one Christmas, our family was coming from the northeastern part of Arizona down to Phoenix, where my dad's mother and my two aunts lived. And it was sometime in the early 70s probably. I know I don't look that old, but just hang on with me, follow the story. Anyway, we were coming down the hill in our Country Squire Ford station wagon. And it was the kind with the wood panels on the side, this big behemoth of a station wagon. And so we were all in there, and we get up on top of what's called the Mogollon Rim, and it's a high spot in Arizona. And we're getting ready to drop off the mountains to come down into the Phoenix, the valley that we call it. And we got up there and it was snowing, and there was probably 4 or 5, 6 inches of snow on the road. And so we're driving along, and the tires on the car were bald. And my dad was, man, I'm not sure how we're going to make it down there, but we're going to try. And so we are trucking along, and all of a sudden we come around this corner, and there's a roadblock. And the deputy sheriff is trying to turn people back and not let them go down this rim where there's lots of snow. And it was at a bad place. It was a precarious place on the turn. So my dad, in all his wisdom, he just pulled over in the oncoming lane and just kept going. Went right on by the cop and the blockade and everything and just kept going. And we ended up driving along up and down a few small hills, and this big four-wheel drive pickup came flying past us. And my dad says, man, that guy's going to be in trouble if he's not careful. Well, we get down to the bottom of this long hill, and the hill seemed twice as long because we were going so slow. And just to avoid slipping in the snow, my dad was just driving very, very slowly. And my mom was kind of nervous and sitting there. And so my brother, my oldest brother, Dwayne, opens the passenger door in the back seat, and he just stepped out on the ground and started walking next to the car, and he'd jog a little bit and walk in the snow and jog. He'd pick up snowballs and throw them out in front of the car, and we're just walking along, or he's just walking along, and we're just sitting there looking at him. And we get closer to the top of the hill. Finally, took us forever to get to the top of this hill. And my dad said, Dwayne, you better get in the car because we're about to hit the top of this hill. Dwayne jumped in the car and shut the door. We get to the top of the hill, and just after we crested the hill, start going down the other side, there's that four-wheel drive pickup in the ditch on the side. The guy's waving his arms at us, hey, hey, hey. My dad couldn't stop. Now we're on the downhill slide with bald tires, and we're sliding down the mountain. So we slid all the way down. Well, eventually, we made it to Phoenix. And we stopped in this little town called Payson, and there used to be a restaurant there called the Knotty Pine, and we stopped at the Knotty Pine restaurant, and we got out, and there were snowflakes as big around as a silver dollar, about 2.5 inches across, and they were falling on our shoulders. And we go into the restaurant, and we sit down at a table, and I look over the doors that goes to the restroom, and I kept looking at this sign. Now I'm old enough to try and figure out how to read that stuff, and I kept rest, and I kept thinking restrooms, but that word doesn't look like rooms. It says rest, and then I realized it said area. So they had a rest area sign over the bathroom doors. Well, years later, my dad and I were building a motel up in Holbrook, and we went to get some plumbing supplies in Phoenix, and we stopped in to the Knotty Pine Cafe. And I said, oh, we're going to stop here. And Dad said, yeah, I need to go and spend some time in the rest area. Now, that was a joke with us for years. See, I had a memory of a Christmas time that is long past. I mean, long past. We were down there one year, and it was Christmas time in my aunt and uncle's backyards, in their backyard. And we were all playing and goofing around, my brothers and my cousins, and there was 4 of them and 3 of us, and we were goofing around in the backyard there and playing ball and whatever, and my aunt comes out and she goes, it's cold out here, you kids need to put on a coat. And it was probably 55, 60 degrees, but she wanted to make sure everybody had their coat on. And her kids, if you guys are watching this, you know exactly what I'm talking about. And so she said, you kids put a coat on. So everybody put a coat on, and we're all standing there, and my brother Rob, he points at the sky like this, and he goes, it's pink. And everybody looks up and says, yeah, thank you, Captain Obvious. The sky is pink. And he goes, that's snow. And everybody goes, yeah, we're in Phoenix. Now everybody knows it doesn't snow in Phoenix. And wouldn't you know, about that time the snow started falling. Big snowflakes started falling out of the sky. And they got down about 2.5 feet, 3 feet from the ground, and they melted before they ever hit the ground. It was one of the most amazing things I've ever seen. It's a memory of Christmas that I had. We had so many memories. I was talking to him about some of them today. But most of the memories were wonderful. Grandma's potato salad and Grandma's pies and Aunt Sula's Mississippi mud and all of these good things that we used to eat, and then if we were down there at New Year's, we were always eating Mexican food, tamales and enchiladas and all this stuff, and we enjoyed spending time together. And everybody says, Christmas is about family, and it is about spending time with your family, but talking about Jesus, talking about what He did. Let me encourage you with this today. You guys, Jesus has made provision for us to have memories, to have Christmas memories, to think about those things. And because Jesus came, sacrificed heaven to come down and be born, this little helpless baby, then we are able today to be able to celebrate His birth. And I love Him with all of my heart, and I know you do too. And if you don't, you know what? It's because you don't know Him yet. If you don't love Him with everything that you are, it's because you don't know Him yet. And you haven't realized what He sacrificed for you. I was telling you about the swaddling clothes. The swaddling clothes, you guys, was these rags, these bits of cloth that were all sewn together into a long strip of cloth. And what the men would do was wrap them around their belly when they were on a trip, going into a foreign place or whatever. When they were on a trip, they'd wrap it around their belly in case they died while they were on their trip. They could use that as a burial shroud to wrap them in. That was the swaddling clothes. Isn't it funny, not funny haha, but funny peculiar, that when Jesus was born, they wrapped Him in death clothes? It was foretelling His death on the cross. And the same type of cloth that they wrapped Jesus in at His birth was the same type of cloth that they wrapped Him in at His death. Jesus was already telling us through a prophecy right there that He was someday going to die. He was born to die. But you know what? He wasn't born just to die and stay dead. He rose from the dead. And that's the cool thing about Jesus, is He was twice born. Born of a woman and born of the grave. And that makes us able to now celebrate His birth, His death, His burial, His resurrection. And that's coming in about 4 months. We're going to celebrate that. But you guys, the cool part about it is that Jesus had to be who He said He was. If there was over 300 prophecies in the Old Testament of the Bible that Jesus would have had to fulfill to show that He was exactly who He said He was. Statistically, if Jesus had fulfilled only seven of the over 300 prophecies that He did fulfill, if He had only done 7 of them, statistically it would have been like filling the entire state of Texas 2 feet deep with silver dollars, painting one of them black, taking it out in the middle and sending a blind guy like me out into the middle of Texas, and the very first silver dollar I pick up is the one that was painted black. Statistically, that's what it would have been for Jesus to just fulfill 7 of the over 300 prophecies that He did fulfill. I am convinced, even by something that simple, that Jesus was exactly who He said He was. He was born in a manger. He was raised by 2 people that loved Him. And He lived and He died for us. And aren't you glad that Jesus came? Aren't you glad that we can celebrate Christmas together and we can have Christmas memories? And it's not just about, oh, I'm dreaming of a white Christmas or silver bells or all that kind of stuff, but it's about who Jesus is and what it meant for Him to come. And you guys, I am so happy that He did, because without Him, I'm a worthless, trifling mess. But God sent His Son, and Jesus came. And I'm so glad He did. Merry Christmas again. And also, let me encourage you, if you have not yet subscribed to the channel, please do that. Please do that. And send us a comment and all that kind of stuff. And hit the bell there, the bell to let you know that when we put a new show out. We would really appreciate it. But I want to pray with you, and then we're going to go. And I'm going to enjoy Christmas with my girls. Jesus, thank You for coming. Thank You for being born in such a humble way, so that anybody who seeks You can find You. And not just that baby Jesus, but that glorious King, that victorious King that someday is coming back to get us. We love You, Jesus. We thank You for Christmas. We thank You for all that it means to us. We thank You for all that it means to people around the world. in such a large celebration going on today. Thank you for your life. Thank you for your life. Thank you for coming. We love you, Jesus. Amen. Well, you guys, I thank you again. Merry Christmas. Happy New Year. We will see you on New Year's Eve or New Year's Day. We'll send out another show about that time. And so I wanted you guys to know that. Also, you guys be looking forward to what God's going to do in the next week or two. God is going to do something great, I am convinced, in the next couple of weeks. So be praying, be ever watchful. Jesus is coming back soon, and we're going to be happy to see him. Amen. Oh, and just in case you didn't know it, I'm the best friend you ever had, other than Jesus. You just don't know it yet.